All right, guys, today we begin our review of things that I think you're going to have to know when you get to where college, wherever you're going. If you take a stats class, which is very likely. So, some stuff we've already done, but hopefully just to jog your memory a little bit and make it more clear and easy when you get there. So, let's get going. Today's interquartile range and outliers. Before we even start that, this is went and took a picture of one of my daughter's papers here. One of her, it's not the syllabus, but it was something they got the first day. With a summary of tools and techniques for Stats 201 at the University of Tennessee in the Haslam Business College. So there you go. That's where this comes from. All right, interquartile range. Quick review here. Interquartile range basically measures the middle 50. The middle 50% of a set of data is your interquartile range. It's a measure of spread. It kind of tells you how spread out the data is. It's not a measure of the center. It's a measure of the spread, kind of like standard deviation is a measure of spread, variance, so is range, and so is interquartile range. It's found this way. You do the third quartile, or Q3, minus the first quartile, or Q1. That's how you find the interquartile range. And also its use is to find outliers. It tells you, it's what is used to be able to tell if there's an outlier or if there's no outliers at all. All right, use a lot with box and whisker plots. Remember, when you make a box and whisker plot, your box right here contains your middle 50. That's your middle 50%. A box and whisker plot divides things into 25% increments. 25% there, 25% there. That's the median. 25% there, 25% of the data is out there, which means the middle of the box represents the middle 50%. The longer the box, the more spread out your data is, like you'd expect. This one, that's Q1 right here. Q1 is 61.5. That's Q3, 64.95. To find the IQ range, you just do Q3 minus Q1. I did that down here. Got 3.45, which means the middle 50% are pretty close together there. And it's only, it's not a big spread in data from 61. 50% of the data is between basically 62 and 65. So pretty tight there, not much of a spread in data. All right, outliers, the last part of today's lesson. And a data value is an outlier if two things. If it's above quartile 3 by an amount greater than 1.5 times the IQ range, or if it's below Q1 by an amount greater than 1.5 times the IQ range. So after we find the IQ range, which we found on the last slide, we're going to multiply by 1.5, add it to our Q3, subtract it from our Q1, and see if any numbers fall into those areas or not. And if they are, they're outliers. So I'm going to show you one example. That's all it's going to take. I'm hoping this is just reminding you of everything we did earlier, and it's not that big a deal. Let's look at one example. We're done. All right, I have a big set of data here. And what I did with that data, all those numbers, is I typed in my L1 list on my calculator. And after I got them all typed into L1, I'm going to stat calc. It looks just like this, stat calc. What I need is number one var stats. Because I just typed in L1, it's just one variable, one set of data. So I typed it all in L1, one var stats. When I did that, all these things come up. Okay, and I scrolled down a little bit, and once you scroll down far enough, you find Q1 and Q3. It doesn't actually tell you what the IQ range is, but it tells you what you need to know. So the IQ range I did on this first line by hand, 15.5 minus 13, I got 2.5. That's the IQ range, interquartile range. And what you're going to use that for to find outliers is you have to multiply that IQ range times 1.5. It's always 1.5. When I did that, I got 3.75. Now, 3.75 is not a stat. It's not in the list, anything like that. But what it does is it tells you how far something has to be away from our Q1 and Q3 to know if it's an outlier or not. So what you do is you take your Q3, your bigger one, and add 3.75 to it, and I got 19.25. Then you take your Q1, the smaller one, you subtract 3.75 from it and get 9.25. So most of the numbers, the usual, we used to call them unusual and usual. The usual numbers should be between 9.25 and 19.25. If they're outside of those, it would be considered unusual or an outlier. So I'm looking back up here in my list, and sure enough, I found 21. That's an outlier on the high side. I don't see any numbers that are single digits, which would be less than 9.25. So the only outlier I see is the 21. 21 is an outlier in that case. All right, so things you need to know from this video. How to find first of all, IQ range measures the middle 50% of the data. The middle 50 is in there. You find it by doing Q3 minus Q1. And you can use your calculator to find Q3 and Q1, although your calculator will not tell you what the IQ range is. To find outliers, you multiply your IQ range times 1.5, add it to your Q3, subtract it from your Q1. That gives you your usual data, and you can see if there's any unusual or any outliers by seeing if there's anything outside those two boundaries. And that's it. Your homework's going to be a Google Doc. It only has 3 little questions like this on there. Get it done, turn it in for me, and have a good Monday. See ya.